You're listening to Cooper Talk.
Welcome to Cooper Talk. I'm your host, Steve Cooper, and remember, I'm only as hip as my guests. And I got to tell you something, people. Years ago, back when I was in high school, I used to go to the Jersey Shore, a town called Ocean City. And I had a good friend, Mark Esposito, who I still know, and I've known since I was 6. And we used to go to the Ocean City boardwalk and try to pick up girls. And back then, what you did was you'd walk with a tune box. It sounds so cheesy now, but you walk with a tune box because you're too young to get in the bars. And you play tunes and you try to meet girls. And I remember Mark was a big Blue Oyster Cult fan. And he was always playing Blue Oyster Cult. But the other tunes we would play was Get the Knack by The Knack. And we were always looking for basically a good girl. You know, we were like, no, we don't want any good girls. But it's just amazing that, 40 years later, I'm actually getting to talk to one of the people who's in the Knack, and he's had a great career. Now he's playing music with his kids. He's out on the road with different bands. He's going to go on some tour. And my guest is Prescott Niles. How you doing, Prescott?
Hey, what's going on?
Not much.
That's life in the big city.
I know. Well, yeah, I'm in the big suburbs. You're in L.A. L.A.'s just... what part of L.A. are you in?
Yeah, it's still here. It hasn't burned down yet.
Now, are you near the fires?
No, it's maybe 10 miles away, something like that. But the winds are favorable, and I'm in Sherman Oaks, so I'm not in the hot zone, so to speak.
Yeah. So you grew up in New York, and you told me, we talked the other day for a little bit. You told me you were a really good baseball player. When did you start playing baseball?
Well, I was a street kid growing up in Brooklyn, and I was one of the most favorite stickball players on my block. And because I was a switch hitter, I was able to break windows on the upper floors and the lower floors, if you know what I mean by that.
Right.
Mickey Mantle was the Yankees were the biggest thing in New York. I used to take the train from Brooklyn when I was 9 years old, probably, to Yankee Stadium, which was a great experience. And, it's just part of the culture. But as music started to happen, I mean, obviously with the Beatles, which I think started most of rock players' careers in America, no let alone England, I started to drift away from that and realizing I didn't belong in a square world, if you know what I mean.
Now, what instrument did you first pick up, and was music around your household?
Well, nobody really played in my family at all. I think the radio was my teacher at first. My parents always played cool music growing up, so I was kind of influenced by blues, Lloyd Price, or, Diana Washington. So they had good taste, which helped. But rock and roll, I was always attracted to. I was probably one of the only Brooklyn kids that liked the Beach Boys, And there was actually a group around the block or so that actually tried to dress like them, which is pretty interesting. But it's kind of hard to sing like them. But again, let's see how to put that in perspective. There was so much of the music. I was actually one of the first shows I went to. Murray King had shows in Brooklyn on Flatbush Avenue. And I probably saw a very early Stevie Wonder show, and Ronettes would build on it, the Dovells, and then the English thing started happening in Brooklyn as well as all over the country. And New York had great radio stations too. Scott Murrow, Cousin Brucey, all these cats, and it was an amazing education growing up, so to speak. I had to learn from a friend of mine who I used to go to the Catskills every summer, which was a real pleasure getting out of the city. And some guy knew Beatles chords, so of course I learned as many as I could. But a couple of years later, I figured I needed to play something for real, and I figured I loved the sound of bass. James Jamerson, Paul McCartney. I mean, to mention a couple that were on the airwaves. But I figured I didn't want to play rhythm guitar because it was boring, and lead guitar took a long time to get good, and bass was coming into recognition, and I had to meet girls quick, so I started playing bass.
I always love it. It's so many musicians and even actors are like, we had to meet girls, and it's so true. And I did stand-up comedy for years, when I got out of college, because it was a way you could meet girls, and it didn't make a difference, if you were real cool or not, or if you were hip. I mean, everyone thought you were so cool and so hip because you were a performer.
Well, what's interesting was I was caught in a very interesting cultural thing in Brooklyn. There's all the Italian kids that I hung out with because they were really cool. And because I played baseball, they had the Collegian guys with penny loafers and sweaters and, like, jock kind of thing, which I definitely didn't jive with, which is another reason I kind of gave up my baseball scholarship and said, screw baseball. And so I had those two, and then when the music thing came along with the dress of England, the clothing, the whole thing, that was where I belonged. And as I started to play and going to Fillmore East and smelling patchouli oil in the air and seeing great fashion and great music, and it was really easy to shift gears and jump on board.
Now, you're playing bass. When do you decide this is what you're going to do with your life, and how do you get that started?
Well, I was one of those guys that didn't really have a 5-year plan. People, as you grow up, there used to be a new thing. Well, you gotta plan the future, and we all know that's not so easy to do. You can get a general direction. I was going to say there was a group in Brooklyn called Dust. Kenny Aronson was the great bass player in that band. I was like 16, and I really hadn't started officially playing yet. Or at least attempting to play well. And Kenny, as you know, became a great bass player with so many different people, and he was my first kind of like guy I looked up to because he was local. And Mark Bell played drums, who actually I played with later on in the group. Mark Bell ended up joining the Ramones, So that was like the immediate thing for me. I saw people right in Brooklyn who were really good, so that's when I started to start playing around with local bands and getting a feel for actually playing. And bass, the more I played it, the more I realized a lot of bass players weren't particularly good. And I just figured I was going to make this, I play guitar, but I figured this was going to be my statement, so to speak.
Now, when did you meet Velvet Turner? Because you're the second person who I talked to that knew him, and somewhat, Richard Lloyd from television was the other. When did you meet Velvet? At what point of your career was that?
Well, this is a great story, I got to say. So I was playing with this blues group in Brooklyn, and we had one of the hot guitarists. Each neighborhood had a hot guitarist. And when this guy Velvet, I didn't know his name, he came down to audition to sing. He kind of looked like Jimmy, kind of dressed like Jimmy, but he was a 6'3" version of Jimmy. Velvet always walked hunched over to try to make him look more like Jimmy. Anyway, we played together, and afterwards I said, you play guitar? And he picked up a guitar and strummed some Foxy Lady chords, which a lot of people in Brooklyn didn't play. So I figured, okay, who is this guy? And I said, where'd you get your clothes from? He said, I got them. I knew Jimi Hendrix, and I said, sure, man, great, let's keep in touch. So I kind of doubted his authenticity. But as time went on, we talked a bit, and then one day he called me and said he had tickets to see Jimi Hendrix Thanksgiving Eve at the Philharmonic Hall in New York, if I'd go with him. And then we go to Jimmy's birthday party afterwards. Well, seeing is believing, so I met him there, saw the concert, and 3 hours later I'm standing in the Cheetah Club, paralyzed to speak, because Jimmy was 10 feet away from me.
Now,
and you can well imagine.
Did you get to talk to Jimmy at all? Or
No, that came a little later. But the fact that Velvet had credibility was astounding. And after that, Velvet really did know Jimmy on some casual level. I guess Jimmy had given him a guitar, and he, figured he was an honest musician who was trying to get it together. So Velvet and I started a band. Now, I knew he knew Richard because Velvet knew some of the people in the Village, and that's when I started hanging out in the Village, Greenwich Village at that time, and I met Richard and a few other people, and all of a sudden we just started putting it together, and because of Velvet, I not only got to meet Jimmy a couple of times, eventually I said hello, it took a while, but, I went to see concerts. I had seen him before I met Velvet at Fillmore. And with Velvet, I saw him at Madison Square Garden and one of these small clubs called the Salvation Club in Manhattan. And it was actually Woodstock too, but that's another story. But I got to see Jimmy, and the fact that Velvet knew Jimmy I was able to get backstage to a lot of places because Velvet could, call up or, play his card, so to speak. And because of Velvet, I got to go a lot of backdoor shows, concerts that I would never have been able to get from the audience backstage, and that pretty much changed my life because it showed me what went on backstage, business-wise, romantic-wise, and it was a lot of fun too. So, and Velvet, everybody calls him Velvet, but he's always reminded it's Velvet. And also, he was third cousin to B.B. King, because we saw B.B. King at the Village Vanguard, and they were talking about their mothers knowing somebody. So that's a credibility, right?
Oh yeah, totally. No, you said Woodstock. Now, how old were you when you went to Woodstock? Because I talked to Stu Cook from Creedence who played Woodstock, but I haven't really talked to many people who've been to Woodstock. What was it like, and how old were you?
Well, I was 18, and I actually graduated high school. I didn't show up too much last year, but I was pretty decent. I had some smarts. But I used to go to the Catskills every summer, so I happened to go up there to hang out with some girls and a friend of mine, and then we started noticing this advertisement for this Woodstock thing happening. And I said, this sounds like a great thing. And I said, we got to go to this. And I said that we didn't have any money. So I figured, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to get there? So we walked by, they had signs up in street poles announcing who was playing. And I had found a guitar case, an empty guitar case from this girl. I guess one of her former lovers left the guitar case there. So she gave it to me. And so we're looking on the street here on the pole to see who's playing, and there was a band called Santana. And I said, you know who they are? And he goes, no. I said, why don't we say we're in Santana and we'll hitch and say we need to go to Woodstock? Swear to God. We went, started hitching, and we said, hey, we're playing, I'm playing guitar, and, I didn't know who Santana was. So some guy drove us like as close as we could to Woodstock. How's that for a good start, right? And I always wonder, this is the best part of the story, I always wondered if this guy, 40 years later, was telling people he drove guys from Santana to Woodstock. Back then you had to be creative, right? You had to so anyway, we got there, and I had no idea. I didn't have any money, so I had a brainstorm idea I was going to work there. So I signed up to do construction. I got there a day before. I figured I'd hammer some nails and, get in for free. Signed up and hammered a few nails, and then I knew I was in because I had a pass. And, going into town that night, I met a girl, long story. She didn't charge me, which was really good. I was one of those girls. And went to some rooming house. I found actually a Guild acoustic guitar sitting in the lobby, which ended up staying with me all these years later. But I went back the next day, and we jammed, and it was insane getting in. And we walked literally 6 miles. And then, the rain started. But because I pretended to work there, I lost my friend in the process, by the way. But because I pretended to work there, I actually was able to sleep somewhere. Because I had no idea where I was going to sleep. No money, velvet pants, blue boots, fringe jacket, and, I looked pretty English, so I figured I'd get by, So basically, because of that, I was able to stay and be able to sleep somewhere, and because I met people, I was ended up getting security passes, and I moved closer to the stage. So one of the highlights in my life was, being 20 feet from the stage when my favorite band, Sly and the Who played, and it was unbelievable. Back then you didn't take pictures, so you had to take it all in as best you could. And that was phenomenal, and just being there and be able to go in and out, you meet people. But anyway, the last day of it, Jimmy didn't play, so I went to sleep expecting to go home, and woke up and heard him playing and ran down the hill. And as you saw in the movie, it was pretty empty. Everybody had left. There was trash everywhere. But I got to see Jimmy do his set, and then I had to hitch home from upstate New York to Brooklyn. That was interesting.
So yeah, that's crazy that you got to see Jimmy play, and then you basically met him later. Now, when did I know you ended up? When did you leave New York?
Well, here's what happened basically. So that was in '69. Okay, and here Michael Lang had promoted Woodstock, and Velvet and I had been playing around and everything. So I got a chance to go to California in the summer. probably in June or July, 1970. So I was in touch with Velvet, and while I was there, we got the news that Jimi Hendrix passed away, which was devastating, you know, because Jimmy is one of those people you thought was like immortal. You know, I can't explain it. He had a vibe, an aura, if you want to call it. I can't explain it, but it was very powerful. So I think that was the first death that really affected myself, and especially Velvet, you know, being close to Jimmy. So from that phone call, he called me the next day and said there were people interested in maybe signing Velvet. So I flew back to New York. We stayed in the hotel. We cut a demo. Needless, the next thing you know is you got a $100,000 record deal with Gulf and Western. Figuring that Velvet was maybe the next Jimmy. And we signed the deal in Woodstock, New York with Michael Lang. We just started a record label. I mean, how could you plan that, right?
I know, it's crazy.
It's nuts. And then we got a chance to go to California, you know, because the producer we got was Tom Wilson. I didn't know who he was at the time, but I'm sure, you know, he worked with, you know, Velvet Underground and Bob Dylan, Simon and Garfunkel, Hugh Masekela. He was a genius. And we got this advance, so we came to California to do an album, and I had a great engineer at record plant. And, you know, anybody that's trying to fill Jimmy's shoes is, you know, that's a lot of pressure, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it's a legend.
It's a legend. So as we came out here, we started to do that and did most of an album. And then we found out that we had to recut some songs, and somebody else got involved in finishing. The only reason I'm bringing this up, I'll tie the loose end together. So we got this other guy from Family Productions, Artie Ripp, who actually had Billy Joel rehearsing in the same managing studio we were in, you know? So I got to hear early Billy Joel under lock and key, as the story goes, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, but he was brilliant. I knew back then he was a great writer. So anyway, the thing with Velvet was falling apart. We finished this album for Family Productions. And at that point, I just figured that's over, and I got a chance to start traveling. So let me throw this in. So in the last month or two, I got in touch with those people, Artie Ripp and Family Productions, and they're re-releasing the album on vinyl on Record Day on November 28th. And I think it's astounding that they're reissuing it on vinyl, and the fact that people are going to hear it fresh for the first time. You know, they were releasing on some off-beat record labels in Europe for the last few years, but the fact that it's going to be out there is really wonderful, you know, for Velvet's memory, and it's the first album I did, which really got me into the business. So I want you all to go out and listen to it, all right?
Oh, yeah, so then that's great. I love the fact that vinyl's coming back because, you know, vinyl somewhat disappeared. It's so funny. I'm 55. When I talk to all my friends, everyone's like, yeah, I got my records in a garage somewhere that probably warped. And it really sucks because no one was keeping their records. And now, you know, I went to there's a little record store that actually just closed around the corner from me. And they wanted like some outrageous price for like Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. And I remember in high school, you know, we'd clean our pot on Dark Side of the Moon because it opened up and you could use your index card and the seeds would roll down. And now they want like $25 for $22, and I'm like, that's bullshit.
Well, it's unbelievable the records I gave away. Probably thinking, you know, who cares, right?
Right.
I still have a lot of records, but it's amazing that at this particular time in my life, anyway, that album is getting, you know, people are going to get. It sounds kind of like Jimmy, and I did write a couple of songs in there which showed my skills as a bass player. At least back then, I guess I could play, you know. And I still have that Fender bass that I played on that album, by the way. It's a pretty cool thing. But anyway, just to go back to your point, after I finished playing with Velvet in LA, I played with Arthur Lee for a short time and did a TV show with him. You know Arthur Lee from Love, right?
Yeah.
You know, he went nuts during that time period, so it didn't last too long. And then I got a chance to go to, I figured anybody gives me a ticket to go anywhere, I'll go, as long as it's a round trip, so I got a chance to go to Boston to play with somebody. And the great thing in Boston at that time was Aerosmith was just starting, the Modern Lovers were playing, and I met some great musicians at that time. Boston was really a good scene then, you know?
Right.
This is like 71. And going into 72. So I was there for 6 months, and next person came into my life was an American guitar player named Jeffrey Mitchell, a great songwriter and guitarist, and I got a chance to go to England. Another round trip ticket. I went to England and lived there for almost 2 years, believe it or not. And the glam rock thing was happening in England, so I got to experience that firsthand, you know?
Now you're in England. Are you in a band in England, or what? Are you being like a session musician? What are you doing in England?
Well, I went over to England to put a group together with Jeffrey Mitchell. It's called JM Hollywood or something. And our manager was Jamie Granger. His father was an English actor, Stuart Granger. So he had some clout. His girlfriend ran Bobson's model agency. So I was happy to be there, right?
Right.
Because I was like, oh my God, this is heaven. But we had a backer. We lived in a country house. We did a few shows, and but in the course of living there, I got to be friends with Rose Taylor. Rose Taylor was Mick Taylor's wife, and because of that, meeting her, I got my journal to actually know I didn't make this up. I met Mick Taylor and actually got to jam with him a few times, and he played chess, and I was into chess, and he was into heroin, though, which kind of slowed down a chess game for days, But for those people that know what I'm talking about, but because of Mick, I was able to meet Ronnie Wood. Because of Rose, rather, I met Ronnie Wood and different people. I went to his house at the Wick. I met, there used to be a club called Tramps in London, where all these cool musicians went. Nobody played, but they hung out, and I got to dance with George Harrison, believe it or not. I was dating a girl that worked for Joe Taylor, his press secretary. And anyway, so I got to meet George, and all these great music was coming out of London at the time. I mean, nobody knew who I was, and I always felt like, I wanted to be somebody they knew. I didn't want to just be a hanger-on, because I just loved the music. I didn't care about hanging around. I just wanted to play with people. And I met Jeff Beck, and I actually jammed with him at Jeffrey's birthday party. Long story, but I met a lot of people there. And anyway, it's pretty amazing, isn't it? To be on a round trip ticket to end up somewhere,
Yeah. So your round trip ticket. Now, when do you decide to leave?
Okay, what happened was it fell apart. Jeffrey went back to America. Now, earlier on, we came back in a few months earlier with Jeffrey to audition drummers in L.A. We weren't happy with English drummers at the time, even though we did play with Mitch Mitchell. But at that time, Mitch wasn't physically well, so it was very disappointing, And we also played with Paul Whaley from Blue Cheer. He definitely wasn't well at the time. So, I mean, he was deaf from that period. But we auditioned this drummer named Bruce Gary, and we wanted him to come back to England to play with us. Instead, he went back to play with Jack Bruce and Mick Taylor and this new band that was happening, So that's how I met Bruce originally. So anyway, I came back to L.A. when things fell apart. I went to City College and started studying classical piano. And I met this Italian professor of music who became a dear friend, and he taught me a lot. I really gravitated to classical music, so I was doing that as well as playing. And Bruce, had actually got me back in England because I came back to play with him at a show somewhere. Anyway, long story, but Bruce ended up, this thing with Jazz Bruce ended up, he came back to LA and started playing with Doug Feiger and Bert Nevera in a project they were doing. And one day I got a call saying they wanted to put a real group together, and Bruce recommended me because I kind of looked like my partner, I could play like Ed Whistle, and which is, I guess, a good compliment. And so that's because of Bruce, that really got the knack going, and we did our first official show on June 1st, 1978.
Now, you did the first show, you get the knack together. What sound were you guys looking for when you got together? Did you have a certain sound in mind, or what were you trying to capture when you were a new band?
Well, it's interesting, we because Doug and Bert and Bruce did some demos, and believe it or not, Capitol turned them down and Good Girls Don't. There wasn't really a sound yet. Now, Bruce is an amazing drummer, as you've seen or heard as well, he played, I used to jam with him on, like, progressive music. He can beat Billy Cobham and stuff. But he was a great pop drummer. He could be simple like Ringo. He could be Keith Moon. So as we started rehearsing, the early songs we did phased out, and a lot of the songs that ended up in Get the Knack, like Let Me Out and O Tara, Selfish is one of my favorites. Of course, Sharona, all started to come as the band started playing in town. So the sound kind of evolved. My Fender bass, which was a brilliant bass, and my Gibson bass was great, but I had this Guild bass I had gotten. It looks like a Les Paul, and I was playing out of a Marshall guitar amp, and that ended up being the sound of the bass, and it worked well with Bruce's drums. So I think by playing a lot of shows, 2 gigs a night stuff, we started getting a reputation in LA as having this power pop sound,
Now, you're getting a reputation. Are the record companies starting to recognize you?
Well, they started to at the beginning. There was somebody named Bruce Raber at Capitol. He was one of the first guys to come down and see us, and kind of got Capitol Records interested. But I think for us is when, because of the camaraderie we had, I think because of Bruce, our drummer, we started having people sit in with us. So when we played the Star with Eddie Money sat in with us, and we did 2 Tickets to Paradise with him, which is incredible. When we did the Troubadour, Tom Petty jammed with us, and we did Mona and Not Fade Away, which was wonderful. And then Bruce had known Bruce Springsteen, our drummer, and Bruce Springsteen. We called him out of the audience, and he did a few songs with us. And then after that, it was Stephen Stills jammed with us, Ray Manzarek. So it's a funny thing that we became this band that had celebrities jam with us. Nobody in LA was doing that. It wasn't a formula. But we were good musicians, and I think people really dug that. So I think that really got the record company's attention, big time. That we were kind of acceptable to other people,
Okay, so you got that going for you now. Now, when do you get that deal? When do you get your first deal?
Well, at that time, it was really cool. A lot of record companies were interested. Like Polygram were throwing $1 million our way, and the more money you take, the more money you owe, right? And nobody knew if we were going to have a hit album or a hit single. And Capitol was always interested, and we got other offers too. But when we talked about getting a producer, in our preliminary meetings with Capitol, for some reason Mike Chapman's name kept coming up. He was working with Blondie at the time. He'd written a lot of great pop songs with Sweet, Susie Quattro, and worked with a lot of people, later on. So as soon as Mike came and heard us play, he loved it and said, "Listen, I'm on board." He said, "You got a #1 song." I go, "We do?" Now, Capitol didn't know this, but Mike says in the beginning he thought My Sharona was a smash, right? So with Mike Chapman on board, and knowing how he wanted to record us, which is pretty much live, we decided on Capitol because they were really committed. The whole company was behind us, and we didn't need a larger band. We just wanted to get the album done. So we went into a studio called Whitney Studios in Glendale. Blondie was recording Heart of Glass down the hallway, and Mike was working with us. And Sharona was actually done in one take, except for minor overdubs and guitar and vocals. So when people say to me, we're one-hit wonders, I like to say we're one-take wonders.
Right.
How's that? Because I always valued our musicianship, because that to me was the best thing about the band. And we finished the album, we finished mixing, and Blondie was still working on Hard Glass, which doesn't take away the brilliance of the song, but it showed how fast he worked. And, Mike really felt that Sharona was the hit single. And then we started to tour Europe. We got back to LA, and then we went out to Europe again briefly. And the album was released, and actually radio picked the single. Because Capitol didn't release the single, they just released the album. So Sharona became the most requested song in America. And Mike was right, and we had a rush release Sharona. So the album went #1 first, and then the single followed, amazingly.
Now,
and then we killed disco, as they said to us. There's a documentary about disco, and it says we killed disco, and I guess that's good, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Well, now, what was it like as this album's hitting #1? Because you were a journeyman before that. You were in bands that didn't work. You were all about the music. You learned classical piano, so you're someone who loved the craft. But what is it when all of a sudden your album just starts blowing up? Because that album was everywhere. My Sharona was everywhere. You couldn't turn a station on without hearing it. Flip around, you'd hear it. What is that like from your view perspective?
Well, the saddest thing was, when the album came out, we went on tour. We went to Australia, New Zealand. We went back to Europe, and unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to bathe in that stardom initially. Honestly, it was the strangest thing. We were getting reports from LA what was going on, Billboard charts, and I get, remember back in the day when they had voice machines, right?
Yeah.
When you had like whatever they were called, right? So you had to call in from Europe to get your messages. So it started out with people were saying, "Hey, here's your record on the radio, congratulations." And then some people were calling, especially girls, and going, "Hey, how come you're not calling me back, you asshole? You're famous, so you don't care about me anymore?" This is within 2 weeks, right? I couldn't afford to call LA. We weren't making any money. So the first time I actually heard a Knack song was in Liverpool, because we were playing Eric's Tavern, which was the original Cavern Club, and we were in a pub and we heard Good Girls Down on the radio. How's that for a trip, right?
Now, how'd you make that feel when you heard it? Did you almost fall off your booth?
It was surrealistic. Everybody talks about that because you're working all your life to get to a point, and you're there and you're listening to your song in Liverpool, not just in America, and you go, "What the hell?" And it was astounding. It was to be coming back to LA with the song, on the charts and every week jumping up 20 points was incredible. It was a great rush. And then we came back to LA and we did a couple of shows in LA before we did a U.S. tour. So we never really got a chance to, walk down the streets and get mugged. You know what I mean?
Now you said you did a U.S. tour. Now, you only had one album at that time, so were you headlining or were you opening for someone, or what was your tour? Where were you playing?
Well, before we did that, we did some shows. Before the album came out, we actually opened for the Police, which was really cool, up in San Francisco, and I got to hear them for the first time, and they're great. To this day, a 3-piece, I could do that, right?
Right.
I love them, and we opened for them. We opened for Dire Straits in Paris, and also Ian Drury. Remember that? Hit me with your rhythm stick.
Yeah, Sex and Drugs and Rock and Roll.
Yeah, so we opened for a couple of different people, but when the album became such a hit, we basically headlined the U.S. tour. We did small venues, pretty much, 2,000-3,000 seaters. We played Carnegie Hall, which, for kids growing up in Brooklyn, unheard of, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, that's so you're playing your albums, hitting the top of the charts. Is your life changing at all?
Yeah. Well, again, I'm pretty much out of town, but I will digress for a minute. I had a younger brother who never really found his way, and he started to become. He thought he was a tough guy. It's kind of like. Those Scorsese movies.
Right.
You know what I mean? He started to, he's a sensitive kid. He started to build himself up and started hanging around with the wrong people in Manhattan. And so, in a way, I wasn't around him very much, even though we were good friends. So I haven't really talked about it very much. But doing my U.S. tour, after we came to the West Coast, played in San Diego, and my uncle came to the show, and I don't know why he was there, but I ended up knowing that my brother was actually, I hate using the word, killed while I was touring. And I haven't shared that with many people, but you can, so in other words, you're at the top of the world, right? And you have to deal with something. I hadn't seen him all that much, so it wasn't like, but we had talked a lot about changing his life and working for the band. At some point, I always really hoped he could do that, but, you make enemies when you're a tough guy,
Right.
And something happened, so I couldn't come back to the funeral. I had to sit on that, finish the tour, find a house and do everything you're supposed to do when you're making money. But it was the strangest feeling in the world to carry that around and somehow not be in denial, but somehow accept it and wonder why the pinnacle of your success you've got to deal with tragedy, So I haven't really shared that very much. So my faith had a lot to do with it. My ability to compartmentalize life and knowing that my brother Leslie was always walking that thin line,
Right.
And so I did go back to New York after the tour was over, spent some time with my parents a little bit, go to Max's Kansas City, because I used to go there all the time when I was in New York, and at least going there and somebody recognizing me for the first time.
Right.
And then I went back to LA to start the ill-fated second album. So that, when you ask me how my life had changed, most of it was all good and all in the upswing. And I was enjoying the feeling of, having a successful group. But, the sadness, I think, is part of anybody that grieves, And I just had to balance that with what was happening. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so that's, you're going through it up and down. And now you said you had to go back to do the second album. Now, was there a lot of pressure on you guys? Because the first album was huge. It's funny, I just listened to it the other day because it's such a great album. And so, you're coming off that where, people just knew it, they sang it. I mean, as I said earlier, My Sharona was giant. Good Girls Don't. The whole album's great. So you get that done. Now, what is your guys' philosophy going back into the studio for the second album?
Well, this is when stupidity started to enter the framework of the bands, I mean, if I can say that and that's even understating it. The fact that we didn't do any American television. I mean, we were offered Christian's rock concert. We were offered Midnight, special. We were offered all these things, but because the success was so quick that our manager and Doug, let's say, didn't decide on the things you should do. They said, we don't want to do these kind of rock shows, or something. There was an elitism that came into it, which I did not understand for the life of me. And we were offered, Time Magazine to be on the cover with a few other bands, and the manager vetoed it. We were offered to be on Mork and Mindy. Can you imagine that?
I think that'd be amazing.
It changed my life. But for some reason, that wasn't good enough. Dick Clark, this was one of my biggest regrets, if I'm being honest. Dick Clark not only wanted to be an American Bandstand, but he actually wanted to do a movie around us. Because we were people compared us to the Beatles, which is the dumbest thing in the world, because we didn't sound like them. I know the look and Capitol, but anybody in their right mind, the last thing they'd ever want to be is compared to the Beatles. Of course, right? I mean, you can, and we only had one singer, so how do you even go there? We sounded more like the Who live, But so Dick Clark, we got a script sent to us, but we had so many offers that we didn't do American Bandstand. Dick Clark, who would ingratiate everybody's household in America. So people knew of us, and nobody saw us, and we were good bands. We did good interviews. We were funny. Everybody was kind of unique, and we were kind of goofy, too, and intelligent, but nobody got to know us, and all they know was the one picture, the album cover, believe it or not. And that was really the start of our undoing. Because we came back to L.A., we could have easily released 2 or 3 other singles. Mike Chapman, to this day, talks about that. And because Doug was fearless at the time, I don't know why, felt like, hey, we got enough material to do a second album, even though he says that we had enough to do a double first album, which really was invented by him. We only did a single first album. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So for some reason, Doug felt we're just going to go in and do another album. And to this day, the biggest mistake Doug made, I think personally, and the Capitol to a degree following along with it, is underestimating a song like Sharona. You just don't put out, an album and have a single that is not better than that, That ended up being the albatross, because if we really, like most people, would have made us wait, and nuke the album, not put out an album that's not going to compare, right? Make sense?
Oh, yeah, totally.
So we went in with Mike Chapman. Mike was going through a divorce at the time, unfortunately, and he wasn't the same Mike Chapman. And I knew in my heart, you know, let alone still dealing with some grief, that this was wrong, you know. And, you know, on the tour bus, I had an argument with Doug and the manager because they wanted, you know, they had written Baby Talks Dirty. Familiar with that song?
Yeah.
Well, you know, that song would go over real well today, wouldn't it? That lyric, my baby says, hurt me, you know, and other assorted sadomasochistic lyrics. At the time, I was against that, you know. I mean, you got away with it, Sharona, and I said, look, you know, Doug always wanted to be the Beatles and the Stones. So you can't be both. You know, Doug's not Mick Jagger or Steven Tyler. You know, if you're going to sing a sexy lyric, you got to be those guys, right? That's always been my thought. Doug was a great band member and a great frontman. But, you know, to take on a lyric that, you know, on the borderline, I was really against it. And Mike didn't really speak up about it much. So anyways, it ended up the song was banned in England. They didn't play it on the radio because of the lyric. How's that?
That's nuts. I mean, it's just, you know, we don't think about that, like banning, you know, songs, and it's just, it happened.
Yeah, I mean, we had to make a change to Good Girls Down 2 in Canada. They didn't want to play a very one of the prized lines in the song about sitting on my face or something, right?
Right.
Which I think is a throwaway line. I don't think it's a piece of art, but, you know, it's not James' choice. But for some reason, on some of the editions, they took it out. But anyway, here we are starting the album. We're running through it. The vibes were, and that's when Sharona came into the picture. Because Doug had been in love with Sharona, in lust with Sharona. And she was never with Doug because she had a boyfriend when Doug wrote Sharona, you know? And he had a crush on her. So when the tour ended, after getting back to Hawaii, before we did the American tour, they started getting together. And when we started to do the second album, Sharona was like coming to the studio, and Doug would be more singing to her than being in the band. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
And Doug really liked John Lennon. I think he was taking on some of the characteristics, so to speak. And Sharona was in the studio. I was like, oh, you know, she's a great young girl. She's great. But it ended up starting, he factioned off a bit. I don't know why. And the cover of the second album was a strange picture of Sharona in a crowd somewhere. They used that, which wasn't bad. The band picture on the inside was great, but not on the cover. And Capitol wasn't really behind it as much. I found that later. So that was more an effort of aggression putting that album out. I don't think anybody really wanted it, and I don't know why it really came out, because everybody's going to compare it to Get the Knack, right, and Sharona. So anyway, instead of being in California and playing TV shows to promote the album, we are in Japan again, playing Budokan, etc. But here's the other thing I got to throw in. We got 2 Grammy nominations, right? And, you know, Best Song and Best New Band, you know?
Right.
And I bring this up because there's a reason why we ended up dropping the ball. It wasn't because of artistic or playing ability. You know, there's during the Jewish Yom Kippur service, they talk about sins of commission and omission. I know you're going to love this theology, but commission means things you know you fucked up on. Omission is things you didn't know what you did. There were so many things that were done that we should have done and not done. Like we had 2 Grammy nominations, and if we played the Grammys, we would have sold another 1 million albums. You know, because we're a great live band. Somehow we ended up in Japan doing an ill-fated tour. We shouldn't have been there, and we're not at the Grammys. We lost that, and we didn't do American TV for the second album. So the album came out at 14, and then because Baby Talks Dirty, nobody was excited about it. That did us in. You know, it's like giving the executioner the ammo to shoot you, you know?
Right, well, you know what's crazy, though? You think about it. I mean, I know the album still went gold, which is, you know, most people would consider it a success because your first album was so big, probably where people were disappointed, but it was still a damn gold record.
Well, I have gold records on my wall as we speak. And I argue with people. I tell them, when they say, I really like the second album, and I'm such a goofball. I go, no, you don't know what you're talking about. I said, there's good songs on there, but the production and even the vocal sound and the drum sound is not as good as on the first album. Mike was rushed to do it, and I think Mike wouldn't have allowed certain things to pass, you know. And I like some of the songs on there, but I really think, again, we actually did a video too that didn't have MTV then, obviously, so nobody even got a chance to see the video of Baby Talks Dirty or I Want You. So as much as I had hoped the album would do well, I knew at that point it was dropping. And we came back to LA, and it was just like, you know, in a short period of time, you go from being on top of the world to personally feeling like you failed, you know?
Now, did that cause, not stress, I can't find the word, resentment or any feelings between the band? Were you know, was it something that you guys were pissed?
Yeah, it was always that. Well, first of all, Doug used to always say, screw the critics, which is normally the case. But because we didn't do the things we should have done in the business as well, show up. If we went to the Grammys and hobnob with people, it would have been far better, you know. We didn't, which again I cannot understand for my manager and Doug being narcissists. I mean, we all have to be narcissists to be in the business, but how do you not go to the Grammys, right? Damn, you know. But so I think the critics, who were really the a-holes at first, it validated their criticism. You know, one hit, the second album doesn't compare. So we gave them the reason to validate their criticisms. And I was angry about that because it didn't have to happen that way, but it did. And yes, there was friction in the band because I think Doug, you know, I give a quote that we were successful because of Doug and in spite of Doug. Because he's very talented, but I think he had a chip on his shoulder, and that chip on his shoulder alienated some people, and as a result, there was friction in the band. Bruce and Doug used to have more arguments because Bruce, you know, had been a session drummer and played with a lot of top acts, and I think he was getting really unnerved by what was happening, you know, collectively, and the manager too. So we broke up at one point, you know, we just, again, so to speak, and that was it. When John Lennon passed away, somehow, you know, I've been talking to Doug on and off, kind of, and I think that I brought people back to a real soft spot, you know what I mean? Emotionally vulnerable. And I remember going to see Doug, and, it was, you know, in December or something. Anyway, and we talked, look, let's get back together. You know, this is ridiculous. Why are we splitting up? We were going to put our own band together for Burton and Bruce. And then we decided because of that, we're going to get back together, you know, which was great. And then we tried to figure out what producer we wanted, and we decided on Jack Douglas. You know, he had finished doing the Lennon album, and he was available in New York, and, you know, we thought of Jimmy Iovine. I think he was working with Tom Petty pretty much, you know. And so Jack Douglas was one of the first albums he worked on after John Lennon. And how's that for an interesting segue, right?
Yeah, and then that's the album Round Trip.
Yeah, and he was still dealing with some of the legal things with Yoko, and the good thing is in the studio, he did play us some conversation tapes from the studio. It was sworn to secrecy. We could never discuss. But, you know, he was saying John was really getting ready to go do a rock and roll tour, and he was excited. So he was still, you know, broken hearted over the whole thing. But he did it. It's the best out. Get the Knack is unique because it's brilliant for what it is. But Round Trip had brilliant sound, drum sound, bass sound, everything. We were experimental. We did different genres of music. We did some jazz, rock, some funk. It's amazing. It showed our real talent. And Jack was phenomenal. And I really thought we were going to have a smash. And Capitol picked the least likely song as the single, a country ballad that Burton wrote. I have no idea why the Knack would come out with a country ballad. It's a song called Pay the Devil, right? And gotta pay the devil its due. How's that for an ironic lyric, right? And Capitol picked that, so of course it didn't go anywhere. And the album, we got a lot of good reviews on it. And then, we spent a lot of money on the album because of track schedule, long story. And then it was like, what the hell? We played New York, we did a small tour, and we played great and everything. We added a fifth member temporarily to do keyboards and extra guitar. But after that, Bruce quit, and we didn't go to South America, and we broke up. And that was the end of the Capitol era. So that album was, unfortunately, was deserving of something, but, again, bad business decisions and, stuff happens, right?
So you break up. So you break up. Now, what are you going to do?
Well, at that time, I was lucky enough because in L.A. there was somebody named Josie Cotton. Josie, pop singer.
Right.
She had that song, Johnny, Are You Queer? You Could Be the One, right?
Right.
So I joined up with her, and she was playing, and I did a bunch of TV. It's funny, I did 5 TV shows with her, and none with the Knack in America. I did a lot of stuff in Japan and Europe, 5 TV shows. And she was cool, and we ended up doing Valley Girl. I'm in that movie Valley Girl, actually, playing with her. With a rockabilly haircut and a box face. Yeah, we did, which has now become an iconic movie. It's funny how life works, So I joined her for a while and toured, and anyway, got back together with the Knack. Somehow things lead back to somewhere. We did another group, too, with Burton and Bruce. We did a group called The Front, and our lead singer was Stephen Bauer, the actor.
Okay, yeah, Stephen, yeah, I ran into him. It's so funny. I ran into a bar in Burbank. God, it must have been 6 years ago. And I'm sitting there, and because it's L.A., you see people all the time, and I'm thinking, is that Stephen Bauer? And I had a hat on. He said I reminded him of his first Jewish agent, Morty Mortensen.
Oh, God, yeah. Wow. So, you with me?
Yeah.
It's funny to end up with. So Stephen Bauer looked great, right? He liked Morrison too, but he really couldn't sing that well. So we started to put that together, and we were going to probably sign with Virgin Records, but our manager at the time got arrested.
Okay.
Because I guess he would have some weird shit going on in L.A. we didn't know, I guess I should have known that his bodyguard had a machine gun, right? I should have known. I mean, I grew up in Brooklyn, right? I was around mafia people, so I should have known, right? Anyway, so that thing broke up, and a couple of years later, we got back together for a benefit concert with Bruce, and, and it worked for a little while, and we did some demos with Val Garay, and then, things happened, and that didn't work, and then Bruce split, and we decided we're going to play without Bruce, and then we got a chance to, John was a good friend of Doug's from Detroit, and Charisma Records were an offshoot of Virgin, and they wanted to sign a Knack. We had the demos from Val Garay sessions, and we got a chance to do another album, and John was produced us. And, and Billy Ward plays drums, by the way.
Now, how did that album, were you happy with that album?
Oh, I thought it was well produced. I thought, Doug was trying to be more vocally athletic, and I think, more heavy rock sounding. I think there were groups out there that were, more of a heavy metal bands. Burton could play great. He could play anything, right? Billy's a great drummer, and some of the songs on that album I really liked, very much, and we actually had a good manager, Bud Prager partnership. We had a guy, Bud Prager managed. He was doing Night Rangers at the time. He managed Mountain and a lot of people in the business. And I thought we had a shot, and Rocket of Love was on that album, and that it got top 10 FM airplay. I don't know if you've heard that song.
No.
Rocket of Love. There's actually a video, too. Well, what's wrong with you? You can do your research.
I did my research.
I'm kidding.
I know.
But anyway, it charted, and we were going to cross over. We did a video, but unfortunately, Charisma Records folded, and such is life, and we didn't get a chance for the album, to really get sold the right way,
Now, so is that the end of the Knack then?
Well, that was the end of the Knack with Billy Ward. Now, we toured, which was great, and also the fact that Reality Bites came out at that time, and they had Sharona featured in that movie. Did you ever see that movie?
Oh, yeah,
Reality
yeah.
Bites?
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a great scene in the movie, so it's as though we got a tour out of it. Now, it's funny, because at that time, Tarantino was interested in using Sharona in Pulp Fiction. However, the scene it would be used in was the rape scene with the Yahoo boys, right?
Right.
So I think we chose wisely of doing Reality Bites, don't you?
Yeah, that's something that, yeah.
I don't know where you think of Sharona with that damn thing happening, you know?
Would have changed the movie completely.
Oh, yeah, so that's one good decision, okay? I got to tell you. So anyway, so we did the tour off of that movie, which was great, and I guess then something happened, and that ended up breaking up, and went through other things, and then we got back together again and decided we're going to play LA again with Bruce. Tried it. Doug was going to do a solo album, but the album wasn't that good. We got a new manager named Danny Sugarman, who, as you know, is a writer, and he worked for The Doors, you know?
Right.
And he was involved, and his girlfriend was Fawn Hall. Remember her?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was a trip. So he was involved. We ended up writing together. I wrote a couple of songs in that record. And before we were going to do it, Bruce was dissatisfied and wanted some business changes. So Bruce quit, and then that's how we found Terry Bozzio, of all people who want to play with the Knack. Can you believe that?
Yeah, it's crazy.
It was like, really? I mean, okay, if you want, and Terry really wanted to do it. So we went in, we cut a bunch of songs with him. Some on the album, some came on Rhino's Greatest Hit, we did some extra songs. But Terry played with us, and then we were going to do a tour, but Rhino Records were not good at promoting a new album. We found out, and then we did half a tour, and Terry kind of got sick and just said, screw this, you know. So that's what happened to the Zoom album. It's a pretty good album, I think, songwriting-wise, you know.
Right.
And it got us something. And, you know, that kind of fell apart. Then they did a video of us playing called the Rock and Roll Funhouse or something. I mean, we never stopped playing, in other words. We always did stuff, and I don't want to bore you with all these things, you know, because it's a long story, but we ended up getting back together again with Image Records. We did an album called Normal was the Next Guy, which had a weird cover, but there were a couple of good songs. We had a different drummer at that time. Actually, Pat Torpey was playing with us for a short time, and then he joined Mr. Big, who was that brilliant band with Billy Sheehan, you know?
Right.
And then Pat came back to us and ended up playing the last 5 years with us while Doug was fighting cancer, you know? And he was brilliant. But we got back together. We did that album. We did some touring every now and then. And then there was a live album came out. They worked put it together. So pretty much when Doug found out about his cancer, after we played the Hard Rock, then he was fighting that the last couple of years of us. So we go out and play. We did some recording, and he was very valiant and courageous, doing the best he could. And we never got a chance to do our tour of LA, like anniversary tour, you know, to kind of stitch it all together, you know.
Right.
And so Doug passed in 2010, and Burton really had no interest, and he writes musicals. He's very talented, and I don't think he wanted to do it. So I've done some things on YouTube. You can watch me and my kids. My son's a brilliant drummer. He's playing since he's 2. And my daughter, anyway, it's really strange how life works. I never knew I'd have kids.
Right.
I always thought I was shooting blank, to tell you the truth. No, because my mom was on some weird experimental drug they gave women in the 1950s, and no girl ever came after me to sue me for knocking her up. So I logically figured, you know, I couldn't do it, right? Make sense?
It totally makes sense.
I figured I was blessed and cursed at the same time, right? But as it turned out, I got married which was a leap, and I was blessed. The marriage had problems, but I was blessed with 3 kids, 2 sons and a daughter, and I've always played with them through the years. There's a lot of clips on YouTube of me playing Sharona with my daughter Liv and son Gabe, and some with Noah, with Nelson singing with us, with different things. We've done it. And the night Doug passed away, actually, we were at a club somewhere, and we did a tribute to Doug on February 14th, 2010. Leif Garrett actually sang Sharona with us. And so, in a way, the Knack's music, because I played it with them, it's relevant, and I've been offered many, many occasions to put something together to do that justice to the Knack, and I will. I'm playing with Missing Persons now, and been doing it for a number of years, which is fun. I like the music,
Now, did you get that? But did you get Missing Persons because Terry was in the band, and you got to know Dale that way, or how'd that come about?
No, not at all. I met Dale many years ago, which was modeling. I never before Missing Persons, So we do shows together, and when I was done with the Knack, so to speak, we just met one day, and she said, "Hey, why don't you play with me?" And I said, "Sure, why not?" So that's how that came about. And I started doing some shows with her, and I like the music very much. Terry doesn't talk to her anymore, so there's no, there's nothing happening there,
Right.
And I never talked to Terry even about that, believe it or not. But I started playing with her, and we played with a lot of 80s bands. I used to play with the Knack, and I really got nostalgic because the Knack was so, we not only we were headlining some of the shows, not that it's all ego, but, a lot of the bands that played with us, I really felt bad that I couldn't go out there and sell the Knack music because we do have a number of albums, And I'm probably going to do Sharona. I just started playing with Gary Myrick and the Figures. They're back together now. And Gary wants to maybe do Sharona in the set, which is great,
Now,
And,
you're still playing, you're touring, you're playing music, but I got to know, I want you to tell me the story about George Harrison.
Oh, George! Yeah! Okay. Well, this is interesting. I'll get back to that. Yeah, so anyway, because I had met George when I was in England, I was just met him because I was dating this girl who knew the agent. So we'd go dancing, clubbing, I probably danced with him, couples, with my girl, right? So I met him, and I go to different places. So one day I got a call in '86 saying, would I want to come to a session with this producer? And I go, what was it for? He goes, he couldn't tell me. So anyway, I was getting married a short time after that, and I was engaged. And I said, sure. Oh, you're not going to tell me? All right. So I went down to Sound City Studio, and I was introduced to do the session. Lawrence Stuber on guitar, and Jim Keltner on drums. Who's, Jim's the guy. And I met George again. I said, hey, George. And he goes, oh, yeah. Hey, I said, hey, I was dating Kathy. He goes, yeah. And he says, you're in the Knack now. I go, yeah. So now I'm a somebody, right?
Right.
I'm not just a schmuck trying to, get near him. But he said, yeah, I know of you guys. I like your music. I said, well, thank you. And so I went to go, yeah. So I felt a little more at ease that if I didn't know him, I'd really be nervous. I mean, only because I was reading a chart as I was recording, because it's a complex song. It's called Someplace Else, which is, if you look on YouTube from the trailer for the movie, Shanghai Surprise, that's the track I did for. And Shanghai Surprise, anyway, that song called Someplace Else, it's on the trailer for the movie. George went back to England after I did 2 cuts with him, and I was really excited. The producer told me he's in England, and I'd be flown over to play, and I thought I can postpone my marriage because I was nervous, right? But I waited. Anyway, I got a call that he was fired, I guess because George met Jeff Lynne, who lived down the street, and that was the marriage that started a brilliant marriage between those two, right? Jeff Lynne's a genius, right?
Right.
So I didn't end up playing with George again, and the only evidence I have of it is a paycheck from Dark Horse Records, and it tracked him on the soundtrack. I I guess in the movie too, I'm on that track. And it was great playing with him. I didn't take photos. I didn't. It's one of those things where you don't want to do anything to change anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
You just want to be there and enjoy the process. And it's a memorable experience. And again, knowing him past, present, with him passing away and everything, I was very lucky for that small time period to work with him, And I think that was a comeback period for him, too, actually. He really hadn't done very much. He was sick, and this was his first coming out thing, So I enjoyed that very much.
That's awesome, man. You know what? Now, you just said, you and Gary Myrick, are you guys planning any tours? We had talked on the phone, me and you, about an 80s
Gary,
tour.
I was playing with a few other people, too. I also played with Mickey Free. I don't know if you know Mickey. We played with Shalimar. But he does his own blues, kind of civilized Indian causes, and he's really talented. I've played some shows with him as well, and some Heroes of Rock, Classic Rock All-Stars with Mike Panera, where I get to do Iron Butterfly, I get to do Fear the Reaper, and have Albert Bouchot put on his Godzilla mask. Can you believe that? My Sharona with Get the Knack and Godzilla in the same set?
That's just funny. It's funny as hell.
I never thought I'd live that long. And also, Born to Be Wild, the keyboard player was Steppenwolf.
Well,
but anyway, that was short-lived. But anyway, with Gary Myrick, we jammed together recently. We've known each other, but never played with each other, so we really hit it off. And his original drummer, Jack White, got together when we started rehearsing. So I think we're going to do some shows, and also we might do a Valley Girl tour. We're having Modern English, Twin Souls, do some shows together.
Well, that'd be awesome, man. You know what? I want to thank you for taking the time today, man. I appreciate it. We got to talk Friday about the interview, and so now how can people find you? Should they YouTube you when they see you find your music?
Well, you can YouTube me. I'm on Facebook. I really haven't done my own page. There is a Knack page. You can find stuff if they want to talk to me. I'm going to do my own page soon. I've been really stupid in not getting that organized because I'm going to have to, because I'm going to have a book coming out, only because I kept journals over the years, and somebody's going to tell the story. It might as well be me,
Exactly.
Because I'm the only one, I guess, who wants to. And my kids are going to be releasing their second album. They're in a band called Gateway Drugs. Great name, huh?
Exactly.
And I hope it means something else, but But they're really talented. They did a first album tour. Now they're did a second album. They recorded it at Josh Homme's studio, Queens of the Stone Age studio. It sounds amazing. And two of my sons playing it. They all sing. My daughter too, like kind of garage rock, kind of. It's good. They know how to play, and I'm really proud of them. So that's coming up. And again, I'll be touring probably with Gary and Missing Persons. I did a tour with them this summer. And also, my son Gabe sat in on drums for some Missing Persons shows. He played the Greek as well last summer, which was a real treat for me.
That's awesome, man. Well, I want to thank you, Prescott. People, go check out Prescott Niles. Go YouTube him, look him up. And yeah, you're going to enjoy it. And if you haven't listened to The Knack, I don't know what's wrong with you. Go listen to The Knack, and now you know the guy who's basically...
We'll do that. And also, November 28th, Record Day, Velvet Turner album coming out. So if you get a chance, check it out.
Okay, so people, check that out. Also, people, follow me on Twitter. I'm at Cooper Talk. My website, coopertalk.net. I have over, like 500, 600. I think I have 750 episodes up. Anyway, so follow me there.
Yeah, great. I've watched some of them. That's why I'm confident talking to you.
Thank you, man.
Really
so people...
good.
Check it out. I'm Steve Cooper. I'm only as hip as my guests. Don't forget, drink your water, eat your vegetables, take your vitamins, and I'll talk to you guys next time.